This week, Fox News Watch, Segment 1. A new Bush administration strategy, not on Iraq, on the media. Segment 2, the media cover the Pope's anniversary. Or was there more to it than that? And Segment 3, do you know this guy's name? Should you? Does anybody want to see a DC sniper movie? And why didn't you see this comic strip in the Washington Post? First, the news.
Hello, everyone. I'm Carol Iavana. New audio tapes allegedly containing the voice of Osama bin Laden airing Saturday on Arab television. The voice heard warned, "I tell the American people we will continue fighting you, and we will continue martyrdom operations inside and outside the United States until you stop your injustice and you end your foolishness. And you young people of Islam everywhere, especially from neighboring states and Yemen, you have to go wage jihad and show your muscles." The White House says this tape's a sign the war on terror rages on and, quote, why we are taking the fight to the killers. President Bush in Thailand for a meeting with the leaders of the Asia-Pacific Economic Cooperation. He's expected to talk about the war on terrorism and international efforts in rebuilding Iraq. Mr. Bush has already made stops in Japan and the Philippines. Secretary of State Colin Powell is also along on the tour. He and the Thai foreign minister signed an agreement which will expand trade between the two countries. A Center for Animal Disease study is not secured against terrorism. That's according to a government report. The Associated Press released excerpts from a General Accounting Office report. It said that 8 foreign scientists were allowed to tour Plum Island Animal Disease Center unescorted without proper background checks. The report also says there is no adequate response plan for other catastrophes. A convicted killer and a murder suspect break out of a prison in Louisiana. The two men slid under a fence and went over the top of a gate. One man was convicted of manslaughter and the other was set to be tried for murder in connection with the death of his 12-year-old stepdaughter. Authorities are using dogs and helicopters in the search. The Fox Report is at the top of the hour. Now stay tuned for Fox News Watch. That's coming your way next right here on Fox News Channel. Stay with us.
Here is the Fox News Watch panel this week. Those of you at home are invited to read along with me. Jim Pinkerton of Newsday, syndicated columnist Cal Thomas, Jane Hall of the American University, media writer Neil Gabler. I'm Eric Burns. Fox News Watch is coming right up. Here is one side of the story in Iraq these days.
Back now with the latest from Iraq. Just one day after a suicide bomber tried to blow up a hotel full of Americans, killing several Iraqis. Today was another difficult and deadly day, this time for U.S. soldiers on patrol in Tikrit, Saddam Hussein's hometown.
Here is the other side of the story.
More hospitals are open, schools are running, electricity's coming on, the water's cleaner, the commerce is beginning to flourish.
To promote its side of the story, the Bush administration is waging a two-part campaign in the media. Part 1, top-level administration officials make themselves available to top-level interviewers. Part 2, the president skips top-level interviewers altogether and talks to medium-level regional broadcasting companies, which the White House usually ignores. Now, the reason for this, Jim, is that the White House believes that the media are not acting as conduits about information in Iraq these days, but as filters.
Well, this notion that this is something new, that talking to regional media as opposed to the local Washington-based media, or, of course, to speaking to the country from the Oval Office, which the President's been doing for 50 years, it's just wrong. I used to work in the Reagan and Bush senior White Houses, and we did, quote, regional media all the time. There's nothing new about this. The Washington Post misled its readers last week when they called it, quote, unprecedented, that this is happening. This is standard operating procedure for every White House. There's nothing bad about it. It's just the way you operate and when you're trying to get a message.
And in part, I guess, because every White House believes to some extent or another, Cal, that the press just aren't getting the news right when it comes to what that administration is doing.
Sure, there's no constitutional right for the national media to own the process of dissemination on the words or policies of the White House. Jim is right. It's also done during the campaigns. Candidates, Democrats and Republicans, go around and talk to the local media when the national media says, oh, that's just a rehash of their stump speech. Then they do interviews with the local anchors. Nothing wrong with that at all.
Well, I would bet that they were looking to the fact that President Bush's poll numbers have been dropping, although they've been coming back, and the election's getting close, and they said, whom can we talk to who will let us get our side out? It's a pretty cynical or realistic move, and I think that they were punishing anybody who'd been hard on them.
Let's not get disingenuous here. I mean, look, this is not unprecedented addressing the local media. What is unprecedented, really, is never addressing the national media and only addressing the local media.
He's had more press conferences than almost any president in recent history.
Scott McClellan talks to the national media every day.
Scott McClellan, not the President of the United States.
I mean, look, plenty of presidents go underground when they don't want to talk, and when they do want to talk, it's just, look, remember, Bush is on TV talking to somebody every day. If you turn on the TV, he's in California, he's in the Pacific, wherever.
He is not allowing himself to be questioned by the national media. He is allowing himself to be questioned, if one wants to call it that, by the local media. And of course, these are all softball questions, which is why he's doing it. This is war on the national media and an effort to circumvent the national media by appealing only to the local media.
Let me tell you what the problem is. The problem is the level of trust. A new Fox poll out just this week shows that overwhelming numbers of the public don't trust the national media to report the news correctly. Quick follow-up point. Right. Ted Koppel on Nightline this past week blamed it on the Bush administration, that is the lack of the trust of the media, for its basically lying to the public.
Well, wait a minute. Just hang on a minute here, because Cal mentioned these poll numbers, and I want to get specific with them. One of the questions, and this is a Fox News Opinion Dynamics poll, U.S. military operations in Iraq, are the media more likely to focus on negative things or positive things? By a count of about 3 to 1, the respondents said they're more likely to focus on the negative, which suggests, Neil, that the White House has some reason, whether we agree with it or not, for wanting to get out there and hammer its message home. Because it believes, and the public seem to believe, that the media concentrate too much on the negative.
Well, of course, you can see other polls that say that the public is turning against the war, and we see those all over the place, so the public is obviously seizing on the negative as well. But by the Bush administration doing this, and I might add just parenthetically, the trust figures for the Bush administration aren't all that high right now, but for the Bush administration doing this, it's a little like the Wizard of Oz. Pay no attention to that man behind the curtain. Pay no attention to the casualties in Iraq. Pay no attention to the instability in Iraq. Just pay attention to the fact that schools are being built, people are being immunized. This is a little like saying about 9/11, why concentrate on 3,000 people being killed? 280 million are alive and healthy.
Two major news organizations these days seem to be concentrating at least a little more than they did before, or saying they're going to, on the positive. Time and ABC have announced that they are going to join forces to present in November a lot of reports on the lives of everyday Iraqis. And based on, I'm not going to read ABC President David Weston's statement, Jim, but based on what Weston says, I get the impression that he feels more positive reporting needs to be done, and that's the reason that ABC and Time are joining forces to do this kind of thing.
I think we should get out of this business of we can be positive or negative and just report the story, the good, the bad, and the in-between. Look,
well, that's two stories. What we need to do... No, I don't mean to be facetious here. What I'm saying is we don't need to report the story. We need to get both stories.
We need to get both.
At war with each other and get them out there.
Look, I think by now it's pretty clear that a baby born in America today in 2003 is going to be confronting one way or another the issue of the Middle East and Iraq and Saudi Arabia when that child comes of military age and voting age and so on. So I think we're looking at decades of this, whether you like it or not. I think it behooves the media, and they've been irresponsible in scaling back their coverage so much that you get one story, and if you only can pick one story, you're probably going to pick Marines getting killed by a sniper attack somewhere, and leaving out the schools, the playgrounds, the commercial enterprise, and so on. It all needs to get covered. If the media were really doing its job on behalf of this country on an important, urgent issue, they put an hour a night, all of them, and it would be a roadblock, and we'd have no choice but to learn about this war that we're in the middle of.
May I say something? I think that it is true that the media need to report more of what is going on that is positive. But I really think that part of what's going on is that the Bush administration oversold this war, and the media were part of that, and there is some backlash going on, and the American people, I think, are going to know whether they're being sold, as you said, some kind of a Wizard of Oz story. It's important to report both, but there's a certain backlash going on because people were oversold about the intelligence and about the way this was reported.
Well, you can get opinions. If you put people in a room and you just show them a film that takes one perspective and then interview them afterwards, chances are their opinions will reflect what they've seen in the film. The criticism of the Bush administration, and I think it has some cachet here, is that there's too much of one part of the story and not enough of the other.
It is time for our first break. We'll be back with the press and the Pope.
John Paul II's 25th anniversary is an occasion for the faithful to celebrate. Is it also an occasion for the media to blast the Catholic Church? Stay tuned for more Fox News Watch.
Christy Lane, the man from Galilee, the greatest song since Silent Night.
Christmas is the man from Galilee. Silent night,
The voice that will touch your heart.
holy night, pretty paper,
30 Christmas
pretty
classics.
ribbons of blue.
A #1 Christmas special.
Shake me, I will, squeeze me, I cry. Please take me home and love me.
2 beautiful gifts. 30 Christmas classics, plus Christie's million-selling life story, soon to be a movie, at the special price of $14.99 plus shipping. Or mail your check to Christy Lane, Madison, Tennessee. Call 800-455-8833. 2 beautiful gifts for someone you love.
I just want to run away.
Can you imagine what will happen if the press gets a hold of this? The DA's son and the pornographer's daughter?
You tell your son to keep his filthy hands off my daughter.
You cannot see this girl again ever.
The rich man's dead.
What have I done?
I love you.
I love you too. Coming next week on Fox.
Carol Owen, star of P.O. Dog Scanners and the feel-good dance fest, Pom Pom. You watched him rewrite the rule book in Sharpie and hung 10 with his thrilling island antics in Hawaii T.O. Now appearing in his most lucrative adventure yet, Contract Year. Fox NFL Sunday doubleheader this weekend.
Journalists love anniversaries. They like to spend a lot of time on anniversaries. A couple of days ago, it was this anniversary.
Vatican today, Pope John Paul II marked the 25th anniversary.
Pope John Paul's 25th anniversary
and the 25th anniversary of the papacy of Pope John Paul II.
And it wasn't just TV. The Pope's 25th anniversary was big news in print, too, and great publicity for the post-sex scandal Catholic Church. Right, Cal?
Well, it was good publicity, but one of the presumptions in much of the coverage is that somehow the church is out of step with modern times. It reminds me of columnist Joe Sobran, who said a number of years ago, "I'd rather belong to a church that is 500 years behind the times and sublimely indifferent to change than I would to a church that is 5 minutes behind the times, huffing and puffing to catch up."
Yeah, I thought it was really interesting because I think the media have a tough time deciding, is this the Holy Father and we're not going to really have any criticism of him, or are we going to view him the way a lot of, I think, unfortunately, some of the American, the ABC, George Stephanopoulos, and a few other people put it in completely political terms and talked about ordination of women and the sex abuse cancel. Wait, let me finish. But I think one other thing that's very interesting is his illness and how people are dealing with it. There was a very interesting anchor for a Catholic cable news service quoted in the Buffalo paper who said, we're being confronted with a man who is dying, and it brings up questions of eternity and mortality, and that's a tough one for media.
Are you sure you couldn't disagree more?
Well, let me talk about the first point, not about the second. I think the Catholic Church is two institutions. I mean, it's a spiritual religious institution and it's a political institution. And the Pope is a spiritual religious leader and he is a political leader. And I think in some ways the media has this one right. When they deal with him as a spiritual religious leader, they are generally respectful and even adulatory, as they should be.
And they were in recent days.
in this coverage. When they deal with him as a political leader on specific issues, they are less respectful. But in point of fact, so are American Catholics. If you look at a poll that was conducted this week by Washington Post, ABC, American Catholics take exactly the same view. 90% revere him as a spiritual leader. 2/3 disagree with him on policy.
Let me help Neil a little bit on this one. and that is they like the Pope when they agree with him, and they dislike him when they don't agree with him. But the reporters like the Pope when it's on he was against the Iraq War. They like that. Check. They sort of give him credit after the fact for winning the Cold War with helping solidarity in Poland and so on. They like him on economics because he's kind of a left-winger. They hate him on anything to do with women, abortion, stem cell research. They love the fact that he's got Parkinson's and opposes stem cell, because I think that points out the paradox of this. And they obviously are pounding away in the church on pedophilia. So they just simply pick their menu and decide. Although you certainly can't say that of all the religious figures in the world, it doesn't get a ton of attention. He was Time Magazine's Man of the Year way back when. They are kind of rehashing or rehearsing their obits for him. You hate to say it.
Well, and there's also this lie that somehow young people are out of step with the Catholic Church. When he has these World Youth Days, they got 1 million kids out there, and they do interviews with him, and they say they respect him, they love him, and they seem to be responding positively to his abstinent message.
Does all of this mean, Cal, that you saw in the volume, a great volume of coverage about his 25th anniversary, the media looking for reasons to make their points as opposed to more objectively covering the event?
As Jim points out quite correctly, the stuff that the media was opposed to the Pope doing, dredging up more difficulty with the Eastern Bloc countries and the Soviet Union. Now, after the fact, they're all for. So things that turned out okay, even though the media were against a lot of those policies, they're trying to get praise in retrospect for the man they opposed when he was advocating those policies.
Well, yeah, there was an unfortunate story, I believe it was on NBC, where they literally framed it with all the negative stuff that the reporter clearly thought, and then said, but not Susie Smith. She likes him a lot. I mean, that was so unfair. But at the same time, the New York Times, the New York Times did a piece, there was a mood piece by Frank Bruni, who's their correspondent there, which was just so poetic and about the millions of people who showed up. And
that was a slam.
No, but it was about
the churches were empty. It said
no, but it was about the way he moved all these people.
Isn't it, in summary, fair to say that when you devote, Neil, this much coverage, and you have to answer quickly, I'm sorry, to an event, there's going to be pro, there's going to be con, there's time enough for both, and there probably should be both.
This is a figure who appealed to different groups, and that's the way he's been covered.
So you agree with what I said?
I absolutely.
I ought to spend more time on this show offering opinions instead of always asking for yours.
You nailed this one.
Time for another break. We'll be back with our Fox News Watch quick takes on the media.
You know what Condoleezza Rice thinks about U.S. policy in Iraq. But what do they think in the boondocks about Condoleezza Rice? Here's a hint. The Washington Post refuses to publish it.
Friday nights, go trackside.
It's not scooting, it's not sliding, this is digging. This is the show of shows.
I bet you don't know what boogity boogity boogity.
It starts races and it sells a lot of t-shirts.
This is my people right here.
They thunder down that back straightaway. This is out of hand down here. I like this.
Trackside, Friday nights only on Speed.
Attention all smokers. Now you can kick the habit in only 7 days guaranteed with Smoke Away, the natural doctor-recommended stop smoking system that really works.
I quit smoking in 2 days with Smoke Away. It took me 3 days to quit smoking.
I quit smoking the very first day.
The secret is Smoke Away's unique blend of ingredients that helps to almost completely eliminate your craving for nicotine. Imagine, no more Nic Fits.
It's safe. It's highly effective. I've had tremendous success with my patients using the Smoke Away program.
I was on the patch for 5 months with absolutely no results. I did Smoke Away for 3 days, and I've been smoke-free ever since.
I smoked for 40 years, and I quit in 3 days with Smoke Away. And if I can do it, after trying every other method there is, I know Smoke Away will work for anyone.
Smoke Away is the best product on the market today for quitting smoking.
Call right now and get $50 in free bonus gifts. This is a limited time offer. Call right now.
Now you can stop smoking for free. As a special limited time offer, before Easy Quit goes on sale at your local retailer, you can stop smoking in just 7 days for free. Introducing Easy Quit, the natural stop smoking system that helps you stamp out nicotine cravings. Why pay up to $150 for other products, patches, gum, and expensive prescriptions when you can stop smoking in just 7 days for free with Easy Quit?
With Easy Quit, I quit smoking in 7 days, and I feel great.
I recommend Easy Quit because it's safe. It's effective.
Because Easy Quit is natural, you won't have to worry about side effects like weight gain, nervousness, or insomnia. Do it for your family. And most importantly, do it for yourself. Because now you can quit smoking in just 7 days. So call right now to get the complete Easy Quit Stop Smoking System. A $159 value, absolutely free. We'll also send you a 3-month supply of Easy Lung to help you on your way to a healthier, smoke-free life. The complete Easy Quit System is well over a $200 value, but it's yours absolutely free with this limited time offer. Call now.
It's time now for our quick takes on the media. Headline number 1, no name ban on Cubs fan. Well, here it is one more time, the play that sank the Chicago Cubs, or at least punched the first few holes in their ship of World Series dreams, as a fan outdueled Cubs outfielder Moises Alou for this foul fly ball. Now, the Chicago Sun-Times and ESPN were among the major media outlets that published or broadcast the fan's name. Mayor Daley in Chicago, Jane, decried that. He said the media should not have touched this young fellow's name.
Well, you know, he was getting epithets and threats and a lot of things. Of course, now I've been reading today, Friday in the paper, that somebody's trying to make a movie out of it without naming him, so he didn't get any money out of it. I think it's unfortunate. The Cubs put out a statement and said, leave him alone. It was not something where he was reaching over. I think I'd leave him alone.
His name is part of a story. We're not in the business of reporting stories and leaving out names.
If it had been some famous catch, somebody's record-breaking home run, his name would have been in the paper. I do think they went too far publishing information about the place of his employment.
Was that just on the internet, or was that in a mainstream newspaper? I think that was just internet.
No, it was also a mainstream newspaper.
It was?
They have a right to use his name, but if he gets murdered, it'll be a terrible tragedy. That's the dilemma of this business. Every week we have a story somehow illustrating how like the Joe Wilson case, people get named, they could get killed.
But we name names and stories, for instance, Neil, people who are accused of crimes, and there might be some hate engendered by the crime, and the alleged criminals, might be attacked by someone.
Usually a crime is part of public record. Look,
well,
when
this
you
was
consider,
public record too,
well, not really. He didn't commit a crime. He didn't do anything unethical. He didn't do anything immoral. He didn't even do anything on the playing field that was wrong. And when you consider the danger to his life, I agree with Jim.
Don't publish it.
Don't publish it, and they publish it on the web, which I think is a key. They didn't publish it in their own paper.
Quick take headline number 2. What a week it's been for John Allen Muhammad. First, a jury was selected to try Muhammad for one of the D.C. sniper murders with which he is charged. Then, on Friday, the USA Network aired the movie D.C. Sniper 23 Days of Fear, based on Muhammad's alleged exploits. So, good news, bad news for him this week. Jim, I guess. Here's one of my thoughts about these movies. Does anybody want to watch these movies now when we've seen, because of all news cable, so much detail, so much compelling detail in the actual coverage?
There's only one thing they're adding, which is the actual shootings, which I think is a shame. But as Charles Dutton, the star of the movie, said, look, this is America.
Well, the Washington Post, I think, is showing the fact that they're invested in having people who live in Washington memorialize this event. They've got 2 reporters who's written a book. They ran a picture of Muhammad that was enormous in the paper this week, and they're running parts of the book. They're really wanting you to relive this. I don't want to relive this as a reader of the Washington Post.
It's sheer exploitation.
Quick take headline number 3. Strip not nice to Rice. Now, this past week in the comic strip The Boondocks, which is syndicated in about 250 newspapers across the country, one of the characters says this: maybe if there was a man in the world who Condoleezza Rice truly loved, she wouldn't be so hell-bent to destroy it. Pretty provocative comment, Cal. One newspaper, and one newspaper only in this country, refused to run the strips all week because of that comment. It was the Washington Post.
I was surprised by that. The Doonesbury has outrageous stuff, including personal stuff. It did the alleged dim-wittedness of Dan Quayle, the alleged stupidity of George W. Bush. It's primarily a liberal Democrat attacking conservative Republican characters, but they do this kind of outrageous stuff all the time. Of course, the Post and many other newspapers moved Doonesbury to another portion of the paper from the comic section, but I didn't think this was too over the top. May have been in bad taste, but I thought it was rather curious that the Washington Post, that is a champion of the First Amendment, would censor itself.
The Post is seen inside the District of Columbia as anti-black, and so they were being doubly careful on this. But look, the problem with this
you think this was racial politics, not political politics?
Well, the problem with political correctness is that it doesn't work anymore. You can't censor anything. Ramirez cartoons, this strip, this guy got a lot more attention this way than he lost by being blanked out in the Post.
I think this was hands-off on Condoleezza Rice. That's really the story here. The story is that the media loves Condoleezza Rice. They treat her with kid gloves.
So if it had been maybe another Bush administration figure in this
it would have been in the paper. Absolutely. Because you're buying a sensibility when you buy a comic strip.
You know, the interesting thing, I remember Time Magazine a few years ago had Madeline's War for the war in Bosnia, Madeleine Albright. I mean, it's incredibly sexist, but I still wouldn't have censored it.
All right, we have to take one more break. When we come back, it'll be your turn.
For America, the war began on a quiet Sunday morning with the ruthless surprise attack on Pearl Harbor. And now, all the infamy, the bravery, and the history of the Second World War is dramatically presented in 3 monumental motion pictures. Tora, 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 The Longest Day, and Patton, an extraordinary video collection that honors the heroes of combat.
Air raid, this is no drill.
In the Academy Award-winning epic Tora, 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 the original story of Pearl Harbor, you'll witness the sudden and deliberate attack on unsuspecting American forces. On the other side of the world, you'll struggle alongside the Allies in their heroic invasion of Normandy during the longest day.
Send them to hell.
And in Patton, winner of 8 Academy Awards, including Best Picture, follow the American general as he leads his troops to victory.
I am going to be allowed to fulfill my destiny.
Remember those who fought so bravely with these action-filled war films, Tora, 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 which includes a bonus documentary on the bombing of Pearl Harbor, The Longest Day, and Patton. For a limited time, all 3 powerful motion pictures can be yours for only $29.98.
Come on, you bastard!
3 stellar international casts.
Let's go!
3 monumental film achievements that capture all the action, anguish, and arrogance of war. You'll be proud to add to your video collection these magnificent films that so vividly portray the world's darkest days and freedom's finest hours.
God help me, I do love it so.
Have your credit card ready and call the number on your screen now to order Tora, 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 The Longest Day, and Patton. 3 full-length home videos for only $29.98 plus $5.95 shipping and handling. Or send a check or money order to the address shown. Call now.
The UN unites to help Iraq, but Washington says yes with conditions. Are the Dems playing election politics? Senator Lindsey Graham responds. This week on Fox News Sunday, check your local listing. Sunday at 9, breaking news, politics, global hotspots. Fox News Channel highlights the events shaping your world. Sunday Best with Jane Skinner. Then at 10, he was at the center of a media circus. Now Cato Kalin has a game plan for Kobe. Plus, from scandalous evidence to shocking accusations, Robert Shapiro cross-examines the facts on At Large with Geraldo Rivera.
We got a lot of mail this week about Rush Limbaugh, and we begin with Donna from Portland, Oregon. There are many of us who have listened to Rush and liked him for a long time. However, we have admitted, at least in our hearts, that he has been short on compassion in certain situations. I think this affair will strengthen Rush, broaden his ability to have compassion, and strengthen his support from fans. Carrie, Eagle Pass, Texas. The reason the media hasn't made a big deal of the Rush stories is that he isn't running for office next year. About Kobe Bryant, here is Donald from Quitman, Mississippi. On your show, the insinuation was that Kobe's accuser was being dragged through the mud by the media. I don't know who you're watching because all I have seen is lawyers and former law enforcement people getting on the air and telling how he is guilty long before a trial or conviction. Jerry from somewhere or other, enough of Kobe and Rush. Do the weather. At least it changes. Well, here instead is an email about Maria Shriver going back to work as a journalist. It's from Milt from Las Vegas. Your concern over whether NBC can continue a relationship with Maria Shriver, now that she is about to become the First Lady of California, is ridiculous. Isn't anyone on the panel familiar with Andrea Mitchell, also known as the wife of Alan Greenspan, chairman of the Federal Reserve? As an NBC correspondent for many years, she has had more opportunities to affect national policy than Maria ever has. Finally, here's Chris from Hartford, Connecticut. I must say that it takes every ounce of restraint that I have in my body not to write you guys with personal and political assaults towards Neil on a weekly basis. Though your humor, Eric, usually brings me back to my civilized self. I then go and write something nasty to Alan Combs, and it makes me feel much better. Good for you, Chris. Doesn't do much for Alan, though, but good for you. Here is our address, newswatch@foxnews.com. Please write to us, and please tell us your full name, and let us know where you live. That's all the time we have left for this week's program. Thanks to Jane Hall, Jim Pinkerton. Thanks to Cal Thomas, Neil Gabler. And most of all, as is always the case, we thank you for watching. We'll see you next week when Fox News Watch will be back on the air.